Hey everybody, welcome to etrailer.com. I'm Bobby, and today we're taking a look at the Glacier Chain Snow Cable Tire Chains here today on our 2021 Volkswagen Tiguan. Now guys, this is gonna be a nice little decent way of giving yourself some rollers to go ahead and assist you in your snow and ice driving. Now, these guys are gonna be your least aggressive option for getting through that snow and ice. They are still gonna give you good traction though, and they're still gonna bite through that snow and ice for yourself. However, to a nominal degree, when you start comparing it, especially to your twisted link and V-bar supports, now your square link's gonna do a pretty decent job, kind of just a step right above these guys. The one thing I will say though, the Tiguan doesn't have a lot of room to actually fit a chain in here, so you are kind of limited to your Class S chains on this guy, just because our inner assembly is so close on that inner wheel. I don't even know if we actually could fit V-bars on the Tiguan, so primarily going to find yourself on these steel rollers and probably into that square link. And I think you could probably get away with the twisted link. I would just be a little careful of the V-bar support. So I don't think too many of us are going to need that heavy-duty application for ourselves, especially because this ladder style and even those twisted links do a somewhat decent job of getting through most of that snow and ice that you need to for most of everybody's everyday driving. But these steel rollers are going to be a nice little way of kind of giving you just kind of a nice baseline to start with some chains. So going to be great to keep in the vehicle to make sure you're legal if you're in states like Colorado or anything like that. Can be nice to go ahead and have these guys in there. Of course, they're going to work great in a pinch if you actually need that traction to get out of wherever you might be. Maybe you're stuck on the side of the road. They're still going to do a decent job of clawing through that snow and ice for yourself though. And one thing that's nice about this too, guys, we are having a ladder style pattern here today. What that means, as you guys can see, we are getting, of course, giant gaps here between each one of our chains. So about a whole width of my hand between it. What that's going to create, a lot of this hills and valleys kind of feel for ourselves. So as we go down the road, we're going to have great start and stop maneuverability because, of course, we're going to have those ridges we're coming over every time we're utilizing. However, if you were to go ahead and start turning your vehicle, you might kind of encounter a little bit of resistance because every time you're going to have to get over that hill as you come back into that valley. So it kind of can come back your turning radius just a little bit. But the steel rollers also help with that. They also just kind of go ahead and go with your momentum. They're going to keep for a nicer, smoother ride than you would probably see for more of your standard chain. So they do kind of assist in that, just making it for a nicer and smoother feel for ourselves. Well, the installation doesn't take too much long on these guys. Again, anytime you have to get underneath the vehicle, it's not as fun. You probably have to look at some like Koenig XG12s for that kind of thing to keep off of the ground. But the installation doesn't really take too much time. Let's go ahead and see how we can get this guy on our vehicle. The one thing I will say with that though, we've gone ahead and thrown it on our front wheel here today because a lot of us are going to have all-wheel drive vehicles and potentially just some front-wheel drive vehicles. So make sure you are checking your vehicle's owner's manual guide to make sure you're putting on the correct tire. Well, let's go ahead and see how we can get them on. All right guys, for our first part of our installation, what we need to do is just lay out our chains like so. What we're looking for here, any kind of kinks or anything that's going to be biting up our chain, making sure it doesn't have a good fit. One thing that's nice about these steel rollers, usually you don't have anything to really worry about. As you guys can see, sometimes they get a little kind of finicky down here, but all we just got to do, make sure we are properly seating it on there and it'll be fine. Other things we are looking forward to is going to be these hard points of contact. So you guys can kind of see where this is enveloping. It's a little bit of a sharper angle here where that crimpage is actually happening for that bracket system. On the other side, it is going to be smoother. So it's not going to have any hard points. You can see tire side right there on the side of it. That's letting us know how we want it to be sitting on there. Of course, we don't want to be scraping or puncturing or potentially popping our tires. That would be terrible for us. So making sure we have that smooth side is going to make sure we don't have any unlucky accidents for ourselves. So we can go ahead and just take our chain here though, and we just simply want to lift it and set it across our wheel like so. Of course, trying to avoid our rim or our wheel well so we don't scrape anything too much here. And then we just simply want to set it like so, guys, making sure our connections are getting ready to be where we need them. And now that we are looking pretty decently spread here, I'm seeing a nice even contact for our chains throughout our wheel. We can go ahead to the inside now as we need to make our first connection on the inside of our wheel. All right guys, here we are on the underside of our vehicle, trying to get to the back of our wheel here. Now one thing that can be nice, you can turn this even just a little bit more if you guys need to. It might give you a better purchase on here. However, of course, maybe we're stuck somewhere on the side of the road, may not have that option. One thing to take note, not too much room here between us for us to get our shoulders into. Now I'm a somewhat bigger guy, I'm about 6'1", so keep in mind, might be a little harder than me for some. However, not a lot of room to kind of maneuver back here, so make sure you are just kind of giving yourself a little bit of time. We always recommend trying to put this on at the garage at home home before you find yourself on the side of the road watching this video. So hopefully we've gone ahead and got a good idea of how to get this in place. But all we got to do, guys, is take this back connection here, our back connection here as well, and just simply start slotting them through. Of course, you're going to have your big open end here. That's where we're going to need to fit these these squares through, guys, on our chain. So we can just simply take it and start setting it in place here today. So going to be a little bit harder for me to do than I might want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and try to give myself as much room here today. As you guys can kind of see it, you can kind of walk it through. Once it finds that connection, you can kind of push on this back end here. And that's going to go ahead and allow ourselves to get it past that rectangle there. So as you guys can see, we are pretty nice on there. I can maybe try to go for these back two, but one thing I'm looking for here, guys, one thing we need to watch out for is our inner assembly and our strut up here. So we don't want to be pulling this too much. It actually seems like we have a somewhat decent fit right now going around the inner wall here of our tire. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for now. You can also take your extra chain here, guys, and you actually can put it through this little bracket system right here that's just hanging off. All we got to do is simply take our extra there, slot it in. I'm gonna go down to 2 here just so we have a nice fit on there. And then that's gonna go ahead and keep that access from doing any kind of damage to your inner assembly and just really reducing the racket it might be making. Well, now we want to go ahead and make sure we do have our chains seated properly. We have been kind of maneuvering a little bit, so make sure you're still set how you want to be, having that even spread across your tire. Now that that is good though, we can go ahead and take our front connection here today, and we just simply want to do the same process we are doing on the back side, slotting in our links here today. And I think that's might be as good as I'm going to get it. Let me see if I can get a little bit of purchase here today. I am still seeing a little slack, so I want to go ahead and try here to get that last one. But we might be at our max here today. I think I actually can get this. Maybe. So again, you can fight with this as much as you guys want, like I am here today. The only thing I'm not too happy with, you guys are seeing still quite a lot of slack here in our chain. So that's why I'm going to struggle with this guy a little bit more. Let me go ahead, see if I can get a little bit of a better purchase, see if I can get that guy on there. All right, guys, so I was able to get it. One thing I can say, try to take your backhand here, get that middle finger kind of pulling here, give yourself a little slack, and that way you can kind of push with your thumb and your index on this front guy. Pulling, of course, with your right hand to get this other guy in place is going to be necessary to get the needed purchase. What I am liking the slack we're taking out on there, but I am still seeing quite a little bit there, right? I can almost fit almost 2 fingers width between each of our chain, and especially here on the side, you guys can see we have a little bit. So one thing we're definitely going to need to do, of course, put in our extra chain here so we don't have that flopping around. And then we also need to go ahead and grab ourselves some rubber tensioners so we can take out that last little bit of slack. They are available here at etrailer.com. And all we want to do is simply start slotting these guys, kind of going in a star pattern here, 6-sided star, of course. And then we just simply want to take it starting at the top, if you will, and then bringing ourselves down here to the bottom. One thing to take note, notice how our hooks are pointed away from our wheel. We don't want that puncturing that inner sidewall, of course, so therefore we're not going to have any issues if we go ahead and have them facing the outside towards us. We can simply go down, out, and then up, and then down and around. So I might need to resituate this guy a little bit. It seemed to have shifted along this guy down here at the bottom. And the one thing I will say, I don't really like putting tensioners down here near these bottom ones, just because we do have our clasp assembly that's holding us on here. So I'm going to go ahead and just sneak it right behind there before that connection's being made. But you guys can see it does a great job of pulling in this extra cable here, really taking that slack off, and now we're having a good fit here. I can fit maybe a finger or two in the inner sidewalls here, but as I go around this chain, I'm not having that happening too much where it's too slack to where I can fit a whole finger in there. Now, one thing I will say though, we can go ahead and actually roll these guys forward a little bit. What that's going to allow us to do is actually seat this properly. Half of our chain isn't actually where we want it to be because of how we're sitting on here. So at home, highly recommend rolling this guy forward, making sure you're situated, and then of course just checking all of your connections to make sure you have a nice secure fit on your wheel. Well, as you guys saw, that installation doesn't take too much time. Kind of like I mentioned before, though, you are having to get underneath your vehicle. The Tiguan doesn't leave you too much room to maneuver in. Of course, maybe if you're in snow, you can kind of dig your way into the inside, but even then, that's no fun for everybody involved. So highly recommend getting these chains on before you need them. Also going to be pretty easy to put on. I know I was driving through Colorado, saw a lot of those tire chain stops. So I don't think if you're on concrete, you're going to have too much trouble with these guys. I think they would be a real pain to have to put on, though, if you're on the side of the road somewhere. So not going to be the easiest things to get on, of course, if you don't have the right elements for it. So that's why we always recommend try them at the garage a few times, really understand your chain and what it takes to get them on and how hard it is to do. But in my opinion, not the worst thing to do. I wasn't the biggest fan with how much I really had to work to get this guy on there. I'm glad that I did, though. It really helped with the fit. Just keep in mind that that might be somewhat of a pain to do. Highly recommend getting some gloves, especially when you're having to do that action, and they can be integral with keeping your hands, of course, just warm and safe, but B, to not kind of damage yourself as you're pulling on those guys. So one thing that's nice too, you do get this little canvas bag that comes included with it. That's going to go ahead and allow you, of course, to store this when it's not in use. Becomes great of just storing inside your vehicle somewhere. Now this canvas element can easily be punctured by your metal, of course, because it's metal inside a canvas bag. However, they do a pretty decent job of carrying it in there. I always recommend, though, if you can, grab yourself a little plastic tub. They're going to do a way better job of actually holding onto it. And what's nice, you can take your chains off, keep it in your vehicle. You don't have leakage getting water and dirt everywhere. So it just becomes a nice little way of carrying your chains for yourself. Well, guys, I think that about does it for our look at the Glacier Chain Snow Cable Tire Chains here today on our 2021 Volkswagen Tiguan. I'm Bobby. Thank you for watching.